Well, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about salvaging drought stressed crops as forage. And in this particular segment, we'd like to focus on nitrates and the nitrate quick test that SDSU Extension can offer as a tool to help make some decisions on your operation. We know that drought and nitrates go hand in hand with the accumulation in plants, especially our grass species. So I'd like to introduce a couple people to talk about this. My name is Sarah Bowder. I'm an agronomy field specialist with SDSU Extension. And today with me is Adele Hardy, who is a cow-calf field specialist, and Levi Swanson, who is a producer. He has a diversified crop and livestock operation in the Crooks, South Dakota area. So Adele, I'd like to start by turning it over to you. You're in Western South Dakota, and you're really seeing the heat of the drought and some of the issues that we've had surrounding the crossover between crop and livestock, and when we look at forages. Can you talk to us a little bit about why nitrates are important to consider in a year like this?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So as we consider drought years, everyone's a little bit different, but with a drought, it's basically slows the growth of those plants, and then we have nitrate accumulation. And why that's important from my perspective is the impact of those nitrates on the livestock that we're feeding those feeds to. So the primary concern is abortion in some of our pregnant females at lower levels of nitrates in those feeds, and then at higher levels we can actually cause death. And so those are both things that we want to avoid if we can at any cost, and the way to do that is going to be to know what our nitrate levels are in some of these drought stressed forages.
So what are some of the best and easiest ways producers can check what their nitrate levels are, and what crops should they be checking? I mean, is it everything? Is it, certain cash crops, rangeland? What should we be checking?
Great question. So first thing, what should you be checking? Pretty much all of your forage crops can be nitrate accumulators. So that would include millet, milo, sedans, our small grains, oats, wheat, barley. Those can also have issues. The thing that a lot of people don't think about, though, is the weeds. We can have a lot of nitrate issues in kochia, pigweed, some of those other lamb's quarter that we have. When we get those small rains, those weeds are going to be opportunists, and they're going to be the things that are growing and green out there. So that's what our livestock and cattle are going to go to and consume. So check those for nitrates as well. Most of the time, we're not going to have to worry about nitrates in a range and pasture setting unless we've got a lot of weeds in that area. In regard to how we test this or what tools are available, as Sarah mentioned earlier, SDSU Extension has a nitrate quick test that I help administer, and we've got multiple locations across the state who can perform this test. It's just a qualitative test. So it's a positive, negative. It's going to tell you whether or not there are any nitrates present in the forage. And if it comes back negative, you're going to be safe to go out, harvest that crop, put cattle on it to graze it, however you choose to best utilize that. If it does come back positive, there are some different management recommendations that we would make, whether that's to wait a few days, retest it. And the ensiling process can actually help break down nitrates. So if you've got corn that's got some nitrates in it that maybe isn't going to make grain, we've got a lot of that in Western South Dakota this year, you can chop it for silage, and as long as the moisture's right and it's packed well, you can decrease that nitrate level in that silage. So it would make it a safer product to feed to livestock. So what else, Sarah?
Well, I think you've covered it pretty well. I think the questions that come in on nitrates really vary, and a lot of people are concerned about hay. Like you said, the ensiling process tends to drop the nitrate levels but I'm here at Dakota Fest. You can tell by my fancy trailer office. And I just talked to a producer because I have a silage demonstration here. And he was telling me that he's concerned about his silage. And so we were discussing, when he chops it, perhaps he should take a sample in, get it tested, see where it's at, make sure it's not astronomical, because ensiling can only bring it down so far. And then after 30 to 60 days, right, we let it ensile and ferment, and then check it again before we feed it. Give it at least a couple months if you can before you feed it. And hopefully, those levels have dropped. But that was my off the hip recommendation, that if he's really concerned, if it's very drought stressed, maybe do one at the time you cut and then do it again, after it's fermented, in hopes that if it's still high, you could maybe blend it off depending on how high it was. And there are rates, right, Adele, depending on the animal. We have a listing of rates and what it's safe to feed to. Where can producers find that?
So that is available on the SDSU Extension website. We've got a frequently asked questions publication for nitrates and livestock. And the upper level is 4,000 parts per million nitrate nitrogen. If you have any feed that's above that, it cannot be used for livestock at all. So that's just kind of a number like to keep in mind for producers. And then anything over 2,000, we don't want to feed to pregnant females because we can cause abortions at lower levels.
Definitely things we don't want. So we talked some of the science and some of the guidelines, but let's talk to a producer who's got some experience. I think most livestock producers out there maybe have some concerns about their feed this year if they're in a dry area. And Levi Swanson is with us. And I think he's recently had some experiences that he was willing to share, and maybe talk a little bit about the importance of why we should test for nitrates from a more applied perspective.
Yeah. Well, as this year's going with the drought and everything like that, we had a field of oats that we were planning on putting up as forage oats, and we wanted to put it up as dry hay. And I wasn't really thinking when we cut it and all that stuff, and wrapped it up. And as I was getting done wrapping it up and everything like that, I started to think to myself, we might have some nitrate issues here after talking to Adele and Robin. And after we got our samples back, we realized that the nitrates were pretty high in those oats bales that we put up, which isn't very common back where I'm from, but on a year like this, it seems like it really is affecting stuff around here.
So with that being an issue, Levi, and you already had it baled, what were your options, or what's your plan for that hay?
Well, we got the test back on it, so we know how we can feed it. So we're going to put it into a TMR ration and slowly use it with our feeder calves. We'll keep it away from our pregnant animals here. But yeah, I guess our management options is kind of just running it through the feeder calves now.
So if you had known it was that high, would you have done something different with it, or were you kind of in a corner with what you needed to do with it? I think we'll find a lot of producers that feel like they're backed into a corner.
Yeah, if I would have known where the levels were at, I would have definitely went with a different option. We probably would have put it into ensiling or put it into oatlage. But at that time, with the drought the way it is, I was thinking I need dry hay for my cows no matter where they're at, and kind of a knee-jerk reaction at that point. And I should have been doing some prior planning before I just went all in on one option there.
It's tough. There's a lot to think about this time of year. It's not easy, especially when we've got such a drought situation. But we appreciate you sharing your story. We all make mistakes. As an agronomist, I can't tell you how many I've made this year on our own farm. So don't feel bad. You caught it before anything got sick. So that's great.
Yep.
So Adele, is there anything else we want to share about the quick test itself, where people can get that test done?
Sure. All of the regional centers for SDSU Extension have someone who can test using the quick test, but then there are other county offices and a few veterinary clinics across the state that have been certified. So you can also find that list of locations on the Extension website for where you can test. And I think one of the important things with the quick test is that if you bring us a sample, we want either ground level up or roots up, because we're going to be testing the lowest growth nodes on those plants, because nitrates accumulate at, the highest level in the lowest 1/3 of the stalk. And so we want to make sure that we're going to identify the part of the plant that could have the highest potential for nitrates. And so we need that to be brought into our offices for testing. And then just one quick thing to add, if you have already baled your hay, or it's in a pile for silage, definitely test it before you feed it. Take core samples of your bales, send it to a lab for a quantitative analysis so you know exactly what that level is. And if it is elevated, you can take the appropriate precautions for diluting it and utilizing it in your rations safely.
That was my next question. So you were ahead of me. No,
Sounds good.
I think this has been some great information. Levi or Adele, would you have anything further you'd like to share with producers? All right. Well, thanks to both of you for joining me today, and hopefully it'll cool off. It's definitely a little warm in the office trailer, but we hope that producers can use this information to help them out. And if you have further questions, want to get a hold of us, or are looking for information on the nitrate quick test or nitrates in forages, check out our website, extension.sdstate.edu. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you guys later.